welcome back to a brand new episode of the Who What Now Gaming Podcast, the podcast for consumers by consumers, where we ask the questions: who are you, what got you into gaming, and what type of gamer are you now? I am your humble host, Josh Stewart, and today we have an absolute treat. I'm very, very excited for this. A content creator, Twitch streamer, and one of my favorite things of all time, dice resin creator, and I'm very excited to jump into dice because we all know Dice Goblin here. Please help me introduce FieryAshes. How are you today?
Josh, it's so lovely to be here. I'm so excited. I'm feeling great, but more importantly, I'm just so hyped to get to be a guest on your show. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I truly have been looking forward to this for quite a while. I as I always do, I always, do a little bit of research, on those who are going to be coming onto the show. And I'm such a fan of, of like gaming and like TTRPGs and stuff, but I'm such a dice goblin. It is probably a problem. And so I've been very excited to have this conversation.
I have so many like dice bags just within reach right now. I
Really?
understand. So this is my favorite chainmail dice bag. It stores all of my favorite purple dice. But then I have like my Totoro dice bag, which is for a very specific campaign that I was a part of recently that takes place in a forest. So it felt appropriate to have a forest spirit dice bag.
Of course. I love
I'm
that.
a total menace when it comes to dice. I have been collecting my whole life.
Yeah.
And it's really funny. I didn't know my bio dad when I was growing up, but when I met him as an adult, he was like, so funny thing about me, I collect dice. And I was like, it runs in the family. Yes. But I'm one of those people that likes dice so much, I taught myself how to make them.
Well, we're going to need to talk about that because I want to. I think the problem is that the day that I learn how to make dice, I'll never have room anymore because I'll just make dice forever. I started with, as we all do, we start off with our first set of dice. And then I moved on to buying a bigger bag of dice because I have a problem with just buying dice. And then every time I would go to like a Ren fair or a convention or something, like it's just a tradition at this point. I have to buy dice. And I've been told way too many times that I have too many dice. And to that, I say that's impossible because I just have to. The problem is the bags aren't big enough. That's the problem.
You know how I solved that? Treasure chest in my living room full of dice.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Are you serious?
I have a somewhat small one, but it still fits about 700 dice in it.
What?
And that is in my living room on my TV stand.
Oh my God, that is amazing.
So I have that, and then I have my dice bags that are just the ones that are just for my use.
Right.
And not for communal sharing. But I used to host a Sunday gaming group for years in my living room. And so all the communal dice are in this big treasure chest. And then for Wednesday night gaming, which was a bunch of different people that would just sort of cycle depending on the week. It was all one shots instead of a long, overarching, many years story. I also had like a smaller set that I'd bring out, a smaller treasure chest actually, that I'd bring out and put in the middle of the table at the dining table for those people to play with.
God, I love that so much. And I think I have a new life goal.
I think you would have loved my very first job. I worked at game stores for 10 years, but the very first one, I started working there at 15. And so they paid me, but they didn't do anything illegal. They paid me the bare minimum they could pay me legally.
Right.
But instead of paying me closer to what everybody else made, since I had to work shorter hours every week because I was 15, they would also pay me in snacks and pounds of dice.
Pounds of dice?
So ChessX, the dice company, will do this thing where they'll send like pounds of miscellaneous dice wholesale to game
What?
stores. Because you know how dice stores, or wow, stores that sell dice will have those jars of miscellaneous dice that aren't in a
Right,
set.
right. Yeah.
You refill those by the pound bag instead of breaking up sets of dice to do it. And so sometimes they'd order an extra pound of dice and then give me that bag
I
of
did
dice.
not know that. That is, I mean, actually, that makes a lot of sense. But also, I want to get paid in pounds of dice.
It really helped start my collection growing when I, 6 months in, had gotten 6 pounds of ChessX dice.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
You know,
I
you would have loved
ah,
that, I
I
think.
I absolutely would have. Yeah. That's so awesome. I think I told this before. I first I went online and I bought like 100 or something like sets of dice, solely because I want, like, I'm a dice goblin as it is to my core, but I started doing this thing when we have new groups to play with, or we're introducing somebody to, like, Dungeons and Dragons or something, and somebody wants to give it a shot, and so like my treat to the newcomer would be let me show you my interpretation of D&D, but also like let me be the one to give you your first set of dice. And so like I put everything in one big bag, and then while I'm setting everything up, here's the bag, it's in front of you, you select like one of each of the dice, like create custom make your first set of dice. And so now I have a bag of pretty much like all unmatched dice, but it's that like thing that I love, that I'm just like, hey, this is my treat to you for you taking the first steps into trusting me into being like the DM. So it's like it's a very fun little tradition that we've like kind of stuck with, and I love it. I love it so
I
much.
absolutely adore that for you.
Yeah, it's super fun. Um, so let's dive right into, because I've already derailed us
Oh,
big
that's
time.
fine.
Um, for those who don't know or have not discovered you yet, what are you all about? Give a little introduction to yourself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense that should happen earlier in the
Yeah, I
podcast.
derailed the whole thing. It's ADHD. I just kind of let it drive my
Oh,
life.
it's okay. My brain is also incredibly spicy. As a fellow neurodivergent person, I
I'm telling you,
I get it.
it's the way we live our lives, and it's better if we just don't try to fight it.
So, a little bit about me. I'm FieryAshes. A lot of people call me Bunny because that is my first name. I'm a plus sized, queer, disabled, neurodivergent, goth mom friend, basically, who variety streams. I do truly a little bit of everything. I also do charity streaming. Um,
Love it.
my main focuses when I stream are less about any one genre or type of activity and more a few kind of core concepts. Um, I don't do the positive vibes only thing. I think that's unrealistic and unattainable for most people, especially if you live in marginalized uh, communities and you're talking about real world issues sometimes in the form of charity streaming or, what have you. I think being positive all of the time is too close to impossible for the majority of humans. But supportive vibes only is always what we say, because being supportive to everybody who comes through my
Oh.
spaces is something that I can always be and something I can always try to shape my community into. And people sometimes think that supportive vibes means a little too far into the like the all holding hands and like gentle parenting each other, which isn't quite what I'm going for. Being supportive sometimes is just like, I don't have the same love for that game as you do, but I love that it means so much to you. And so I'm never going to be that person who shits all over somebody's favorite game or, says mean things just for the sake of being edgy or whatever. Like, I'm here to share things I'm passionate about and hear about the things that you're passionate about, even if they're not the same things. And so, while there is some amount of like comforting each other during the hard times, I'm very open about my disabilities and, about life experiences that I have. And it's okay to not be okay in my spaces. If it edges too far into like really triggering stuff, um, I will direct people to a corner of my Discord that's like opt in only for talking about those types of things or getting resources you need. Um, but as far as Twitch or YouTube or the like goes, it's all very come as you are, and we'll try to embrace and support who that person is until you give us a really good reason not to, like hateful behavior or bigotry or, stuff like that. Another core concept is that I think that learning together is growing together. And I'm not one of those people who thinks that you have to pretend like you know everything. So I do a lot of first playthroughs, and I'm not a backseat gaming kind of girly. So I will just happily bash my head into that wall until I figure out whatever that puzzle is or defeat that Lies of P boss or whatever the thing is. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try these new experiences and hope that people will come along for the ride. And sometimes it's learning new recipes in a cooking stream, and sometimes it's learning speed runs live instead of figuring them out offline and just showing you the polished product. But I think that it's important to like very publicly admit when you don't know something but you want to know it. So that's like another really core to my content concept, I think.
This is
Um,
incredible. I love that. That is awesome. And I I hope you don't mind. I'm gonna kind of like adapt these supportive vibes into my streams, because I
Go
think the
for it.
way that you put that was so much better than the like standard good vibes thing.
Yeah,
It really does, because I don't do the good vibes only, because I'm very much a person who stands from the outside and looks in.
sure,
So it's I understand that not everybody can do good vibes all the time. I always just ask, like, don't be negative, but like,
sure.
enjoy. But I've never I don't I've never heard it like that. I've never heard these supportive vibes the way that you just put it, and I think that is so much better, and I think it puts that category for what I was looking for so much better than what I think I could have thought of. So thank you so much. That was
Thank you.
wonderful. Um, I have been I've been checking out some of your previous streams
Hmm.
and the content that you've been doing. And I've never played the game, but it has been kind of like on my list to play. So I am very curious to know your thoughts and feelings about it. But the Yakuza games, uh, because I watched a clip and that you have on there, and it was very funny. Number one, the dancing one, and I very much enjoyed it, and I want to play the game, but I have not had the moment to just like really go for it yet.
So, okay, I'm so happy you asked about Yakuza because, I play so many horror games and I do speedrunning and do like cute, cozy stuff sometimes, especially when we need a break from overwhelming emotional games or horror or whatever. But Yakuza is so many things all at once, and I didn't expect it. Yakuza was a game that I've heard about for years, and I remember, being a young fiery ashes in the world, hearing that Mark Hamill was voicing a character in some Japanese mafia game, and I was like, oh, that's fun, because he was the original voice of Goro Majima, who is a main staple character at least in the early part of the franchise. Um, and he brought big the Joker energy to him. I just want to
Oh,
be clear.
good.
So I knew a little bit about that, but I didn't really know anything beyond that. It just seemed like a another fighting game with a little bit of plot connecting it. Um, but I know some friends who got really obsessed with it and implored me to try it just once because it's on Xbox Game Pass. I think the whole franchise is, but at least 7 of them are all on Xbox Game Pass. So they're like, please just try it. You don't have to pay anything, just go for it. So I played it at the recommended order, which is starting with the prequel Yakuza 0. And now I've played Kiwami 1 and 2. I just beat Kiwami 2 yesterday. Or
Nice.
Friday, I'm sorry. But thank you. And it is the soap opera of games. There's drama, there's comedy, there's romance, there's forbidden love, there's a character in at least one of them called Mr. Libido, who is just a problem. He is a
Yeah.
menace. And I always get really antsy streaming on Twitch. Any quest that involves him, I'm like,
Mm,
is this the thing that gets my channel deleted today? What is
yeah.
happening? Um, but it's I'm shocked by how beautiful the stories are and how much I've cried, not just from laughing so hard, but actually like gotten so emotionally invested in these games that when something really poignant or heartbreaking happens, that it really actually gets to me. The fighting is fun. I love the fighting styles and how they evolve throughout the games. I think Yakuza 0 is still my favorite as far as fighting mechanics so far. But oh, you've got to play them. They're so goofy and it's just incredible. Um, you are primarily playing a character named Kiryu Kazuma. And Kiryu is this very on the surface, no nonsense guy, but like deep down is very like loving. He loves going to karaoke with his friends and eating good food and is like a giant romantic. Um, but on the surface, you get this like no nonsense, very strong sense of justice. He'll do what's right for those he cares about at whatever expense to himself. And he's just, but the side stories are where the game really shines because you get to really know these characters and make these choices for them. Is he going to be this smooth ladies man who always knows exactly what to say? Or is he going to be this bumbling goofball that like just how would the kids say it? He has some serious Ohio riz. Like he's not he can't speak to save his life depending on how you play him.
Oh my
Um
god. As the kids say. I
as
don't
the
know
youth would put
what
it.
that means.
It's like he has a negative charisma
Ohio
score,
Riz. Yeah. I
depending
don't
on how you play him.
I don't think I've ever heard that terminology like actually in context before, so it's very funny to me.
You're welcome. But yeah, it's a really interesting and beautiful series. I have found myself beating those games after about 30 to 40 hours each
Oh, nice.
and only completing about 60% of them when I finish that early.
Yeah. I mean that is like my preferred length of a game
Yeah.
because I feel like it's just long enough for you to have really gotten into the game, but it's not like overly saturated with things to do. And so it's nice.
Oh, there's so much to do. If you did everything available in the game, you'd probably be playing it for somewhere to 80 to 100 hours.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, I look back at like when I played the like Batman Arkham
Mhm.
games and stuff, and it was I love those games. They're super super fun and fantastic. But there was a mechanic in the game where the Riddler would basically create these things you had to collect throughout the entire game, and I tried really hard to like collect them, but it would get to points where I was like, it's the same thing over and over, and there's so many of them, and it would get to a point where I'm like, it doesn't make sense in a story. Like, I don't know how else to say it except for like the last game, where it's the entire game takes place in one night, and
Mm.
you have to go get all the villains from all over the city, and there's this big main story, and then there's like a side, story thing all simultaneously happening. But then you're telling me at the same time that I'm just wandering aimlessly around the city looking for like Riddler tokens. And it's like, at this point, I'm sorry, but like Riddler's not that big of a threat in comparison to the overarching story.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not, I like when I play a game, I really put myself into the game, and I'm like, I'm going for the big threats first, because that's just how I enjoy, gaming. But it's weird sometimes just be like, hey, you could go save that village from burning, or, and hear me out, you could go find 6 flowers. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm gonna go help the village. Like, it's just,
I've
yeah, you know,
definitely played games where it makes you make those kinds of choices.
yeah.
And to quote my boy Ethan Winters, what else was I supposed to do? Like, yes, I technically could have chosen something other than saving these people, but what? Like,
Yeah.
why would I? I suppose you could truly go like a villain route or like the morally like very dark route in a
Yep.
game playthrough. And some games put a finer point on that, like uh, Fallout and Fable and all these other games that have morality systems. But even the ones that don't, it always feels like they're testing you when it's like, you
Yeah.
could save that bus full of orphans. Or you could collect 6 butterflies. And it's like, what are you talking about? I'm going to save the orphans. Leave me alone.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, this is
It's
so
like
wild.
I'll get the butterflies later. Like, it's
The
like a
butterflies
dire
will still be
situation.
there.
It is something that just drives me crazy, but like not in like a bad way. It's just like every time I come
Yeah.
across it, I'm like, what did you expect me to do? Like,
Yeah.
come on. Yeah, we're playing. We've entered spooky season, so we started playing
Mm-hmm.
horror games. And last night was day 2 of our. We're trying to beat a horror game this weekend, and we're playing Until Dawn.
Okay.
And I am loving it so far. The fun part is that it is actually my very first time playing this game, and I don't know how, but I have managed to go years without any spoilers, without any gameplay watching, without knowing literally anything about the game. And so I think we've just entered chapter 8 or chapter 9 or something
Mm-hmm.
last night, and it's really funny because I at one point um, there was a moment where I had to stop the stream, like the gaming portion of the stream, to have like a quote unquote one-on-one conversation between myself and my community, as we had a very in-depth conversation about moral decisions, because that game really kind of throws some curveballs at you, and it was
Yeah.
very fun to have actually had a moment to purely stop and have to have like a genuine conversation to get like the opinions of my community. And so my curiosity is, have you had any of those moments before?
I've had so many of those moments.
Oh, I love
I
it.
love those moments. But as somebody who is like a lifelong horror game
Yep.
fan, I have found other games will sometimes make you have those discussions, but horror games are great for those discussions. Um, I haven't played Until Dawn yet. I've actually been kind of waiting for the re-release of it for Steam next month because it's
Whoa,
going to
what?
be rebuilt and re-enhanced for PC.
Oh, that's gonna be so
Um,
cool.
so like um a new kind of remake of it is coming out next month. But there are many games
Nice.
that have had me having to have those conversations. The Telltale games basically are those conversations as a game.
Mm-hmm.
um and those are what I first started streaming. So there was a lot of explaining my morality to
Yeah.
people back then. But interestingly, the Dark Pictures anthology, I'm not sure if you've played or seen any of those,
That
but
was
those,
heavily suggested to me last night's stream, and it has now become probably close to the top of my list on games we're gonna be playing.
um, I love that. I love that for you. I also now want to send you a DM about potential time we'll talk again. But
Please do.
um, those games are just such a beautiful way to there's such a beautiful way to explore how humans work, I think is how I'm going to put it.
Oh, I'm in.
And and you do have to make some really hard choices. I don't
Yeah.
think that's a spoiler for a game of that type. Um it really, even if you just read the Steam page, it tries to like pound this idea into your head of your choices desperately matter. Your
Mm-hmm.
choices matter so much. Please think about what you do in these games because everything counts. It's not just some giant, the screen will say, this choice is important, and you have an infinite amount of time to do it. You have to make important choices, and even the little things you say to people could really matter. So, really be intentional with how you talk to people,
Mm-hmm.
what little things you interact with, because much like in real life, sometimes the things that you don't think will be important will stick with a person, and that will affect things later on.
That's what
And
I'm talking about.
yeah, I love those games, but we definitely had to pause a couple times and go, okay, a lot of really heavy stuff just happened, and
Yeah.
we had to just sort of make some rapid fire decisions that, didn't feel good for any of us, but I think might have been the best choice still based off of what we knew. And just have these moments where you pause and go, oh, we did that. How are we all doing knowing what we just did? But I
Yes.
I love that. I think that's one of the best parts about playing it live, with other people instead of just playing it alone by yourself.
1,000%. Yes. I yeah, I want to play these games now and then just have a full we might actually just have to have a full like episode conversation about those like games because that is I love that, and I think I learned this more in depth last night during the live stream,
Hmm.
because there was no spoilers, obviously,
Sure.
but there was a major decision that we made,
Hmm.
and I made it very very quickly, like immediately. And it was interesting because I made the decision solely based off of I know what I stand for and I know what I would do in this very specific situation. And so when that scene was over, I look over at my chat and it's going nuts.
Sure.
Because people are saying like, "Oh wow, you made that decision really quickly," and I was like, "Well, of course." And then it was like, "Why
Yeah.
didn't you do this? Or why didn't you think of this? And what did this?" And I had to pause and be like, "Well, now I'm actually more curious because it seems like something that was so obvious for me
Hmm.
seems to be a very different moral quandary for everyone else. And now my curiosity is kicking in, and I want to know why you don't think the way that I think. And
Yeah.
I literally don't mean that in any negative way whatsoever. It
Sure.
is purely because I am curious and I want to learn. I want to know
Yeah.
what your life experiences have led you to that mindset, as opposed to and in comparison to the things that I have learned in my life to do those things. And it sparked one of the greatest conversations I have had in such a long time. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that it was recorded and is like now just on my stream page. But I'm
Hmm.
also like it was such a beautiful raw moment that I got to share with my community. And it was so amazing.
I
I
love that, and
love that.
you. I love that, and I love that you do a thing that I do, which is when you're doing a first playthrough of something, you aren't focusing on what would that character do or what might get you you know, the best outcome based off of some mechanical thing, but
Mm-hmm.
you're playing it, what would I do? How would I deal with these choices?
Absolutely.
W- Um and that's the thing that I do a lot, and sometimes it confuses people, and we end up with the same kind of discussions as you're talking about. But I so often will apply what I would do to a first playthrough of a game, and maybe subsequent playthroughs of the game, I'll change, like, okay, now I want to see what would happen if I, went this other route. Because I find, especially in games that do have morality systems, like Fallout 3 is going to be the choice I'm going to make, like, or the example I'm going to use. There's choices in that game where I ended up, well, skewing good for the most part. And so I kind of had to force myself on a subsequent playthrough to, like, make the bad choices and see what
Sure.
happens if you really dug in and went the opposite direction. But I had to force myself. There were some where I was like, I don't feel good about anything that's happening. But I will always do a first playthrough from how I would deal with that. And I
Sure.
love that you go that same route, because there's so many people who are just like, but, like, you could have gotten a cooler thing if you went this way, or
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. That stuff doesn't matter to me nearly as much. I want to experience the story, or,
Yes. Yeah, no, I fully agree, and solely because when I play a game, or I read a book, or something where I'm very 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 invested in what's going on. um I always like to put myself in that position, because I think, number one, it's a fantastic way to learn things about yourself, but also it is there are sometimes there are decisions that we'll make that will genuinely surprise us.
Hmm.
Whereas what I've been recently learning is that my storyteller brain and my curiosity brain do not mix very well. Solely because there will be moments while I'm playing, the horror games, where my instinctual brain, my biological brain, that pure animal of myself, will say, "Hey, um, don't go upstairs," or it'll be like, "Don't go outside because that would be dumb. We're gonna die," But the curiosity part of my brain's like, "But what's up there?" You know.
Yeah.
And 99% of the time, curiosity brain keeps actually jumping in and being like, I got this one. You sit back. I'll take this one. And then some crazy wild things will happen. And I know that, Mike, in real life, real scenario, I'm a
Hmm.
100% like, I'm not going upstairs. We're not going outside kind of person. But that gamer curiosity brain sometimes kicks in, and then, like, I'll make a decision, and my community will just be like, "Why'd you do that?" I'm like, "Listen, I also don't know why I did that. I just did it. It's a thing that happened. I don't know." But now we live with those consequences, because the way that I play a game is, I don't like, except for Baldur's Gate 3.
Hmm.
I don't do the save scumming thing. I don't like it. I like when you make a decision, that's what happens. And go on, which is why I think I love, like, D&D so much. It's, the dice
Sure.
tell the stay, like, it's what happened happened. We can't go back. We can't change it. We can only attempt to move forward.
Mhm.
And Until Dawn has been proving to be something that I didn't think I was going to enjoy as much, and I am purely loving it. So
I'm so
wonderful.
happy for you. Have you played Song of Horror?
No.
Oh, okay. So Song of Horror is a third person fixed camera survival horror game. So it pulls a lot of inspiration from, like, early survival horror from, like, the 90s and early 2000s,
Okay.
as far as, like, a lot of the, like, map making choices and perspective choices.
Sure.
Um but there's a presence. I actually think it's just called the presence. There's a presence that has sort of um, manifested in this world, where there's this haunting melody out of this music box that this famous author gets.
Ooh.
Um, and you sort of are introduced to the story by him hearing this song for the first time. And then mysteriously going missing after like an inky blackness appears in his house.
Ooh.
So you work for his editor and you go to check on him because you haven't heard from him and he had a deadline. So you go to this author's house and he's not there. Every, all the stuff is there, the car, the shoes, everything implies that he should be home, that his family should be home. His wife, his kids, there's nobody that you can find. Um, you hear some things, but you can never find a person. And then you, the editor's assistant, also end up disappearing. And so then you play through these chapters where you can pick from five, usually like 3 to 5 characters, depending on what happens previously. But you play through these chapters with this collection of characters that you can choose from, and you're trying to figure out what happened to these people, what is causing them to disappear, dodge this presence that's around. Um, but not only will there be a lot of snap kind of reactions that you have to make, there's permadeath. If
Ooh.
you die, that character is out of the game. Um,
Oh, I love that.
and so that you could end up playing the same character for most of the chapters through the whole game and really like get to know them and get attached. Or that person dies halfway through that chapter and you never see them again. And you have to
Oh.
explore these new people. And everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. And each of them has a unique piece of equipment to them. And so it's a different kind of play style you'll have to adapt to also when you lose a character. But there's this unstoppable entity. And so it's just like a truly terrifying experience. And they do have um they worked like an AI into it so it adapts to your actions and decisions.
Oh, I'm a big fan
So
of
the
that.
presence evolves with you and how you play. But it's a
Wow.
beautiful thing. The difficulties are named after different horror authors.
Oh, cool.
I liked playing on Edgar Allan Poe mode, which is one of the easier modes that still has permadeath. You get all the creepiness and terror without like a Lovecraftian level, like you're
Right?
dead every few steps. You are going to burn through all the characters.
Oh,
But
that's so good.
based off of what you were saying about how you love when choices matter
Yeah.
and you love consequences, um, I think that you would really like this game.
That is awesome. I wrote it down. It is now on my list. I will be playing this game. It is so good. I love when a game pushes you to almost like a limit where other games will not restrict you from, I guess is a weird way of putting it.
Mhm.
Like there's so many games where we will play where the game the mechanics of the game are very entertaining, the story is very fun and amazing and stuff, but there's always that the risk isn't
Yeah.
there. So you go in, you don't do something right, you're, I don't know, maybe you fail at a mission or you
Sure.
die on a boss or you whatever, and then you just kind of respawn at a checkpoint and they're like, go get him, Tiger, do it again, you know. And those are fun. But there are some like levels where I do truly enjoy a game where it's like, hey, just a heads up, be super careful because when this, you know, when this event happens or this character dies or, you know, these things, whatever, like there is no going back. You
Yeah.
can't change that. And I've loved D&D for that same aspect. I've loved Baldur's Gate 3 for that aspect. I'm really truly enjoying Until Dawn for that, you know, that same aspect. And I don't know if it's just kind of some sick sense in my brain that's just like I got to see, you know, the outcomes, but it is kind of fun to put myself in those positions to really get down to the core part of who I am, to say like, hey, what would we actually do? Where are we actually going to go with this like
Yeah.
situation? And I've made poor decisions in games where I'm just like, that one's on me. That my bad. You know,
Yeah. I definitely know what you mean, and I think that's something that's always kind of drawn me into games like these. Like, because again, you find it so much more often in horror games, which I think is interesting. Um, because I think there's an inherent fear that a lot of people have about making the wrong choice.
Yeah,
And so it's easy to tap into the stress mechanics in somebody's brain when you're giving them these impossible tasks or choices and telling them, there's no going back. You can't take this back. This is going to be on you no matter what happens here. And letting people kind of figure that out.
absolutely.
Um, I did, I want to say when I brought up Song of Horror, part of me thought of that because of you talking about the gamer brain
Oh yeah.
part, because there there are at least a couple clips that my mods will never let me live down from when I played that. And I walked outside of this place and I enter this creepy ass graveyard that I know
Right.
is full of entities that are trying to kill me.
Right.
And I see that it's a graveyard and I went, huh, nope. And just turned back around and went back inside. I didn't even there was like, not today.
Yeah.
And I just left.
Well, that's so funny. I was actually going to ask you, are there moments when playing games that like, because you say you've played a lot of horror games.
Mhm.
Have you found moments where like you've genuinely felt some fear? And because I
Oh,
wanted to
yeah.
ask because I have, it is so weird while we're playing horror games that the things that should scare me don't at
Oh,
all.
those are not usually the
And
things that scare me. Yeah.
yeah, and it's the funniest thing because we'll be playing, it'll be dark, it'll be suspenseful, and then something will just bang right up in front of your face and scream or something. And I have the volume up, and I'll go, oh man, that was kind of nuts, right? But then like we'll enter like a bathroom, and the shower curtains closed, and I go, no, not a chance. Are you kidding me? Get
Yes.
out of here. Get out of here. 9 out of 10 times I walk into my own bathroom and I punch the shower curtain because I'm like, not today, Satan. Get out of here. Like,
The fan in my bathroom in real life is broken.
yeah,
So we always have like a window cracked, which means that the shower curtain will sometimes like rustle on its own.
not a chance. Nope.
I punch that thing so often. When you said that, I was like, one of my people. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I definitely have those moments. And sometimes people will be like, oh, wow, you're so brave. Those things aren't affecting you. And sometimes like my heart rate will go up, but
Yeah, of
a
course.
fear response of mine is to like, I guess maybe it's because I have training for emergency situations in real life. So there's a part of me that when something is going wrong, a stress response of mine is like to be so calm on the outside.
Yeah.
It is to
Yeah.
just like shut down all periphery functions and just go, okay, how do I get through this? My heart can beat out of my chest, but like, how do I just get through this and be cool? But then again, I'll enter a bathroom or something like you were saying, and I'm like, oh, no, nothing good happens in a bathroom. Absolutely not.
Exactly.
No, I think Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem on the GameCube ruined bathrooms for me. There's this one point where you like find a bathroom and um since this game is like 23 years old, I'm just going to kind of go for it.
Yeah, go for it. If you
But
haven't played it by now, it's come on.
I highly recommend it, but there's a point where you go into this bathroom and you look in the bathtub and it's full of blood and then you find yourself dead in this blood in this bathroom
Whoa.
and you're just like, no. No, thank you.
And you're like, and thank you, but I'll pass.
Thank you, next. But no, I will get scared and I will nope out of situations
Yeah.
like that graveyard or various bathrooms. I am inherently distrusting of bathrooms, especially if there's like standing water in a vessel, like a
Yeah.
bathtub, a sink, anything. I'm not putting my character's hand in that. You can't make me. That's not happening.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I also I play a lot of Phasmophobia and those types of games. I've even won 2 Phasmophobia tournaments,
Wow.
and those often don't get me.
Yeah.
It's very rare that those types of games will get me. it'll usually be something that a chat member does that
Yeah.
will get me instead. Um, but no, I totally know what you mean of the things that are intended to creep you out, not getting you. But then you'll see something that in real life would work, and you're just like, I'm not going to do this unless the
Yeah.
game tells me there's no way forward unless I do it. No.
Yeah. I think it's I've because I just had this conversation the other day where I think my analytical brain
Hmm.
sees all possibilities as I'm like doing things in my day-to-day life. It's the
Yeah.
neurospiciness. It's just that's, is what it is. And so when I play these games and I say, okay, well, the game is purposefully leading us in this direction. This is what's happening. Nothing eventful has happened recently, which means we're due for something such as a jump scare or a something.
Hmm.
And so like my brain is already expecting it. So when it happens, it's there. Like it's like,
Yeah.
oh, all right, cool. The things that do like genuinely get a response out of me is like the bathroom situation, or
Hmm.
if I genuinely don't know you're there and you just as in real life walk up behind me and just be like, hey, like that'll scare the shit out of me.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
like it's like there was one day where my wife, out of the 10 years that we have been together, has never ever once tried to scare me. And so I don't know if it was planned or if she was just in a mood or something, but that specific day she was like, I'm gonna get him today. And it has been 10 years where my brain has never associated my partner as being someone who would ever attempt to scare me. And so,
Yeah.
she calls up from the upstairs, hey, you mind helping me out with this? I go, no problem. I come upstairs, I go around the corner, and she's right there, and she goes, rah! And the sound that came out of my body is something I never knew was even possible. And then I had to sit there and watch her uncontrollably laugh for the next like 10, 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And she was like, I got you. And I was like, yeah, because you've developed a sense of safe with me where I never saw you as the scare tactic threat. And that's one of those things where I don't like some like horror games, because we're restricted on times, because they can't be 10, 15 years long, that there is no establishment of safety yet, and we're
Yeah.
already going into a game knowing it's a horror game. And so those elements, they don't scare me. But like I said, the elements that shouldn't scare me freak me out. It's
Yeah.
I don't have an explanation. And everyone in the community keeps trying. They're like, oh, make sure we clip it when he freaks out or something. And I'm like, I'm waiting for it. I'm
Oh,
looking
that
forward to it. I'm excited for it. But you know,
that type of chat behavior actually will usually guarantee I won't get scared.
I know because I'm anticipating it.
Because I will be thinking, and sometimes I'll say things out loud like, "Oh, we're going into a bathroom. There's going to be a thing in here," or
Yeah, do that.
"Oh, based off of the type of game this is and how they've been setting these things up, there's probably going to either be something in there or in there." Or, I'll often kind of narrate what I'm thinking, and it'll be like, these are the common tropes in situations like these. So this is what I'm going to assume is happening.
Right.
Um, Sometimes I'll try to let myself be in the moment a little bit more, but when chat's like, "Oh, get ready, this part's about to be good," I'm like, "Okay, I know if you've guaranteed, you've confirmed for me, there's
Yeah.
absolutely a thing to brace for."
Yeah, I don't like
I
that.
kn- and so I know not to be surprised
A hundred
now.
percent.
It worked on you because you were playing it alone in your house with nobody else around, probably. And so there was nobody to go, "Oh, wait for it. The jump scare's about to happen." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah, 100%.
you
I've
can't warn a person a jump scare's about to happen and then expect them to react.
100%. Yeah. Luckily, everyone in my little community have been they they're very. I will say sometimes I'm a little surprised, but they're very respectful for no spoilers. which
Oh,
is
good.
really really cool. I love that. I don't do the like, hey, no backseat gaming, but there's like a level of backseat gaming that I'm okay with. Like,
Mm,
don't spoil a story for me. Don't spoil plot points for me. Don't spoil moments for me. But if it's like, if I'm clearly doing something and like ignoring a mechanic that would just
mm-hmm.
make my experience better, feel free to inform me, because it's not me being like someone who's ignoring that mechanic. I probably just forgot that we could do it, or I didn't know that it was possible.
Yeah.
And so like those types of backseat gamings, I'm totally fine with. If you came into stream and you were like, man, are you also shocked that the end of the game ends like this? And I go, I didn't know that that's how the end of the game. So like, don't ruin that part for me. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And so it's been really like, I've been very lucky with that situation. Um,
Not to be any type of way. Like, I'm hoping you'll take this
please,
as intended.
please
I
do.
think that you also probably get less of it because you're not a woman or like a femme presenting person in the space.
I don't take offense to that at all. In fact, I would probably agree with you, only
It's
because I only have my perspective.
it's very, very common
Yeah.
for a lot of like femme streamers to have people just come in, first time chatters, and just assume we don't know how to play the game
Oh,
or assume that we don't know what's going on and just tell us,
yeah.
like, explain to us the plot of what we're doing or tell us how to play constantly. And so if you give them an inch, they kind of take a mile. So you have to
Right.
be much more deliberate about either I'm okay with this or I'm not. There isn't really degrees of it because people will just
Yeah.
go for it. Or the number of people who I, I speed run Resident Evil 7 is one of the games I speed run. And
Mm-hmm.
the people who will come in and tell me how to play the game while I'm speed running it. And it's just like, I I've played this before.
Yeah.
This isn't a first playthrough that I'm speed running.
Do
Like,
you do you
I know
ever
what's happening here.
do you ever
Please.
lean into it? Do you ever just like you get like so tired of it after a while that you're just like, what? A controller? What? What?
My go-to is usually doing the opposite of whatever they say,
Yeah.
even if I know it will not work. It won't
Oh, I
help
love it.
anything. It won't do anything. It might even undo some progress I made. I'll just like, oh, you said to do this, and I'll just do the opposite.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Or oh, what? There are ghosts in this game.
This is a horror game? What?
Yeah. I think it
Yeah.
was. Oh gosh. I'm trying to think of the most egregious. Oh, it wasn't even a horror game. I am currently streaming Earthbound on YouTube because it's one of my favorite games of
Nice.
all time. It has been a favorite game of mine since I was a small child,
Yeah.
and I play it. I used to play it every year. Now I play it every few years, but I still love to go through it again. And somebody came in and I was talking about how it was one of my favorite parts of the whole game, and I was really excited to be there. And I was like, I can't find the person I'm looking for because I need to talk to a specific person to move on. And this person comes in and goes, you have to talk to people because talking to people will teleport you around until you find the thing. And I'm like, yes.
You're like, okay, buddy.
And
Got
so
it.
I didn't say out loud that I was doing this, but I was like, oh, so to look for the guy, I need to talk to people to teleport. And I just kept talking to the same person to teleport to the same place over and over again instead of moving. It's like this.
It's so
This is
good.
how I do that.
So good.
Uh, uh, but I had just finished talking about how, again, it was like one of my favorite parts of the game. It only lasts for the one sequence, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
never go back there. It's one of the only places that's temporary. And he was just like, this is how this whole section of game works. You have to talk to the people or else you can't. It's like, yes. I'm even referring to them as the characters that teleport you as warp guys.
Yeah.
I'm aware that they warp you places. Thank you.
Are we forgetting that this is my favorite part of the game? I'm just, like...
I have admitted that I've been playing this game since the
Yeah.
90s. Um, and so
I oh my god, I love that. It's
it just happens so much that I think a lot of I know a lot more like women and femme streamers that have to be a little bit more clear on don't do this. This isn't cool.
of course.
We're not into it. And some will lean into it and go, you know what? Backseat as much as you like. Backseat whenever you want, just go for it. And they've taken away all things that say not to backseat or not to spoil.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to just see what the logical extreme is for
Mm.
it. They're just like, you know what? Go for it. Screw
Yeah.
it. We'll see what happens. But all of those streamers have stopped doing any first playthroughs on their channels because they know no game is safe from being spoiled.
Yeah.
The number of first time chatters that will come into our streams and tell us the end of the game or at bosses next and what their weakness is, they just, they've decided I can never play a game for the first time and share that experience with my community. Um, and I think that that's
Sorry, my camera is
no, it's
horrible.
okay. It keeps
I'm just trying to fix
the
it
focus
without
on
being
you.
obvious.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I know what's happening when you do spirit fingers at the
Sorry.
camera and then against your face. We're cool. Um, but yeah, it's a really interesting thing that I witness less
Yeah.
for the male or like masculine presenting streamers that I mod for.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Like I'm so far out of that loop that like
Mm-hmm.
depending on what you identify as or present as, basically making your ability to play a game like that never registers in my head. So like I enjoy going into like a stream and like talking to people as individuals. Everybody's just a person to me.
I love
And
that.
so it's like one of those things where um like you say, you're like, I hope you don't take offense to it. And I was like, I don't know if I could, even if I tried to take offense to things. Like I'm such a neutral being that it's like, and I tell people all the time because there's always like like one of my favorite conversations that just happens, and I know this is kind of off topic, but it
No,
just
go for it.
happens in society. Like they're like, oh, be a man, and I go,
Mm,
well, but like, what do you mean, or like, oh, are you gonna let your or I hate to say, but like, are you gonna let your woman do this? And I'm like, listen, I hate to be the one to tell you, but like my wife makes more money than I do. My
yeah,
wife also is like the one that is the best at scheduling appointments or things that need done and stuff. And like, we have a dynamic where, my wife and I are 1000% equal on the same page, 100,000,000%. And like, we have a thing where, if my wife wants to go somewhere, my only requirement is that I would just appreciate you letting me know, just so that I have the safety of mind, knowing that I know where you're at, and that you're safe.
yeah,
Other than that, like at no point does my wife ever ask me permission to do anything. And nor do I, like, to an extent, like I'd never ask permission. We always check in
sure,
with each other, make sure everything's okay. But like no one in my household, like, or our household, it's no one has a leg up on the other person. You know what I mean? And so,
yeah,
but I also see that a lot with, content creation and streamers and, YouTubers and stuff. And it's this whole like, oh, well, if you were more this way, you would get more, views, or you get more this, that, and the other thing. And I think what really truly matters is that if you are more comfortable with yourself
mm,
and you have fun being who you are, um, then the people who want to be around you will find you. And that's like my main thing just in life, I guess. I don't
no,
know.
absolutely. Um, and I agree. I think there's sort of two parts to what I want to say in response to that, because I agree with so much. And even like my fiance and I, like, they're masculine presenting, or at least masculine perceived, usually a
Mm-hmm.
non-binary person though. But when I check in with them, when people ask me like, "Hey, do you want to do this thing?" or whatever, I'll usually go, "Hey, let me talk to my fiance first and I'll get back to you." And they always assume that I'm asking permission instead of just going,
Yeah.
"Hey, we don't have any plans at this time on this day," right? Like there's nothing I'm forgetting that didn't make it on the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
it's never asking permission, it's just checking in and making sure, like, I'm not forgetting something because I'm a very forgetful person. Um, but
Samesies.
also sort of going, "Hey, would you, like, I'm going to go do this thing." Either if they're welcome, I'll invite them along, or I'll go, "Okay, we didn't have plans. I want to go do this thing with my friends. This is kind of how long I'll be gone. I'll check in with you when I get there and when I'm on my way home, just so
Absolutely.
you know that I'm like, okay."
Yeah.
But it's never permission. It's just always so weird. People assume that's what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
then the other thing I want to say is I definitely agree, especially in content creation spaces. If you're comfortable and enjoying what you do, that's the best way to do it. But I'm I'm a member of the Twitch Women's Guild, and many of us have shared stories and experiences and analytical data on how when we play a game, it can be the same game, same time, same day of the week. Nothing else has changed. Um, Whether or not we're wearing makeup will absolutely affect our viewership. Sometimes even half it.
Really?
Yeah, it's dramatically statistically a thing in our analytics. We can tell what
Wow.
days we weren't wearing makeup or wearing less makeup based off of what our viewership was on the same game.
Huh.
So there is certainly something about, like, how feminine we are and like how we're presenting ourselves that can definitely impact some people's viewership.
Hmm.
But I don't think it's the people like you, right? I think it's the people who have like these very specific ideas of what we're supposed to be like. But they're probably
Oh
also the
yeah.
same people who, they're probably also the same people who've spent our whole lives telling us that since we're girls, we're not gamers. So I'm
Hmm.
not really that worried about them not being there. And I know I'm making assumptions, but there are a lot of people who both have very strong ideas of what women should be like and how feminine we should present ourselves, who also have spent mine and my peers' whole lives telling us we're not real gamers because we're girls, or we're not real gamers because we've ever opened Stardew Valley, or, you know, if
Yeah.
you liked Hey You Pikachu, then you're never allowed to have a gamer card for the rest of your life, or whatever the thing is. And I just kind of assume that those are connected because I
Yeah.
can't imagine the people like you, who just see us as people who like games also, being the ones going, um, "She's not wearing eyeliner today. This is really freaky. I don't like it. I'm gonna go to some other
Yeah.
uh Life is Strange stream or whatever is happening. I'm, I'm gonna go to some other
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat stream where somebody is either more dolled up or a man." Uh
Listen, it's funny because when you started explaining everything, I I immediately was like, "Oh, I'm wrong," because my first thought was like, "It's the makeup, not
yeah.
the other part, not the like what the quote unquote what a woman should be." Because my brain immediately went to, "Huh, I wonder if more people will come over if I wear makeup." Like it's that stupid part of my brain is just like, maybe it's because you're just gross and need to put makeup on.
Maybe it's because you're just gross.
I was like, well, that's a fair assumption.
there
Actually, I
are
don't ever wear makeup, so maybe I should. I don't know.
there are there are men streamers I know who've worn makeup, but for like the same reason actors wear makeup. You know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
to like even things out and make you look a little bit better depending on your
Ugh.
lighting and your camera.
I
And
should, because my forehead is always like, I literally showered this morning. I don't. It's my skin, I guess, but I'm always shiny on my forehead, and I don't.
Uh, an old friend of mine who, God, I've been following his channel for like 6 years now, who I just adore. He always wore translucent powder, like colorless powder,
Yeah.
on everywhere that he's naturally shiny. Because he's like, I
Hmm.
don't want to be shiny on camera. I don't want my lights to catch my forehead or my nose or whatever.
Sure.
And so he always wore translucent powder to mattify his skin because
Absolutely.
he felt more confident on camera that way. And I think that
Yeah.
if you have a thing that, you know, you feel might make you a little bit more confident on camera, no matter who you are or how you identify or anything, or even if you generally don't like or wear makeup, there are applicable ways to do it if it would make you more comfortable that don't really change your appearance.
Yeah.
They just make you more or less shiny or, change the texture of things or whatever.
100%.
Um,
Yeah, I had a conversation, weirdly enough, with my daughters, mainly my oldest daughter, who basically like she's still very young, so
mhm,
like what is being like shown in like say like a TV show or when she's going to school or all these things. And I personally I really enjoy painting my nails black. And
hell
in
yeah.
fact, I was thinking about doing it today, and it's like one of those things where like I enjoy the look of it.
Sure.
And it's just something that makes me smile, so I enjoy it. So when I do it, my oldest daughter will always just be like, "Dad, you can't wear the nail polish because nail polish is for girls." And I go, "Well, is it though? Like,
No.
do you see anything on there that says like for girls kind of thing?" And it's like this whole like big conversation where it's like you can't wear makeup because you're a boy, or you can't wear nail polish because you're a boy. And I was like, I never really thought we were going to get to the point where we would have this conversation. But then it was like,
Yeah.
I see, I see why you would think that. But it's now my job to just be it's your thoughts are not wrong. The way that your assumptions of what should be right is wrong.
Yeah.
And it's learning that fine line, but also like teaching it to a 6-year old is
Sure.
wildly different. So
Um, yeah. And I think it's interesting because, there's so many kids that there's so many ways that you can sort of try to avoid that, but I don't think it's possible. Like
mm,
advertising for those things usually are very gendered. So
yep,
even if the packaging isn't or the brand that you buy, it like doesn't have like a woman on the box or like whatever the thing is, like if you ever seen advertisement for those things, it's always going to be very gendered advertising. The aisles that they're in usually have like very gendered signage, and like it's tricky to completely avoid those assumptions.
yeah,
And as parents, like you're absolutely right, we have to really have conversations we never expected to have,
of course,
um, and teach them things like, hey, the fact that you had that thought isn't wrong, as you said. Like, that's not the problem. Let's talk about how you got there, though, and dismantle
exactly,
that and
yeah,
figure out how to rebuild a new structure for those
yeah.
concepts for you so that when you build more thoughts of your own onto it, hopefully it's from a different foundation. So,
Exactly. Yeah, we I'm a big fan of the Ren Fair, and so when we do like Ren Fair things, I always put something on. And then I do my nails. I'm usually wearing some form of like bunches of bracelets and stuff, um and it's always kind of it is an interesting I'm very fascinated with just people.
mhm,
So it is very interesting to see how the very I'm not trying to downplay a 6-year old's brain, but like still very recently new to the
mhm,
world and trying
yeah,
to understand how everything works, and then just oh well, I don't know, the Peppa Pig did this, so that means that that's what is real. And I go,
yeah,
no, it's like, but also at the same time, like I was talking to my wife, where I was like, it is sometimes kind of difficult because it feels like you're trying to explain the meaning of life to a 6-year-old, where like they have a very set idea as to what is and is not, and then you're coming along and kind of just trying to reshape it. Because like I'm always very big into like, your thoughts are not wrong. It's just like, why you have those thoughts are probably um fabricated into
Yeah.
making you think that what you think is right. And I'm I highly respect everybody's opinions on whatever you feel is whatever you feel is right or wrong. Just because I disagree with it doesn't make it right or wrong. But we also have to have the commonality of knowing that, like, if your thoughts harm others, then innately they are wrong, because it's no longer about you, because now you're forcing the opinions on other. I don't know. It is very weird. Like I said, I feel like I'm just standing on the outside looking in, and I don't really understand it. But
No,
neurospicy
I
is a
get
fun
it.
thing, you know.
I get it. It's yeah, I think when there isn't like very clear empirical data that the person is wrong, or it's not like bigotry or something, yeah, like um everyone has their own thoughts and opinions on everything, and we are
Yeah.
all sort of mosaics scrapped together by little pieces of all of our experiences um to that point in our lives. And especially when it comes to kids, I have two of my own. Um Especially when it comes to kids, like it, there's no lived experiences to build off of.
Hmm.
And every new input is all that they've got so far. You know, they're scraping together what they've heard and seen from the adults around them, music, any children's media you give them, what that shoe tasted like. Like they're trying to put together every possible thing they can, but it's their brains are still so fresh. I think
Yes.
is what we what we were trying to find a way to word before, but their brains are still kind of fresh off the printer, and we need to figure out, like, we're navigating so much, but there's certain sensory inputs and like certain types of information that, depending on the age of the kid, they're still forming. Like,
Yeah.
I was just talking to a friend yesterday because her kid is just old enough that he's developing the like the sensory receptors for bitter,
Oh, yeah.
because he's like 2.5 approaching 3 kind of age range, and that's when you start developing being able to sense bitter.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of his opinions on food are entirely redeveloping,
Yes.
and she was worried that um he was just too picky and that maybe she had spoiled him before. And it's like, no, let's really look at what he's rejecting now and what he is leaning towards now. Oh, things that do or do not have bitter as like an underlying profile.
Yeah.
It is literally his brain chemistry and his mouth chemistry just shifted,
Yes.
and humans evolved where bitter means poison usually.
Mm-hmm.
So his survival senses are kicking in and going, I probably shouldn't eat that. That's
Yeah.
probably going to kill me. Um and
It
that's
it's
they're
one of those.
tiny.
I'm so sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I was solely just building off of it, just saying that it was a learning experience for myself when my children got to that point. It was that I had to understand that they weren't trying to be picky, that literally food tastes different now for them,
Mhm.
and that they're rediscovering their love for tastes.
Yeah, I just all I was going to say is I think that all people need to be looked at very complexly, but when it comes to humans, like children especially, like yes, they are tiny people and you should treat them with the respect that you would treat people even though they're children, and that's going to drastically impact them. But you also have to remember, like, they're not they're still developing in ways that we don't remember
Mm-hmm.
and that we take for granted. like flavors are flavors are going to change for them every few years. Sometimes when they're especially young, every few months. Um,
Absolutely.
they don't know these things that we know, that we just assume everyone knows. And you probably shouldn't even make those assumptions for adults because our brains all work different. But with kids, I think there's a level of grace that we need to give them. And
Hmm.
I think that there's a beauty in how much they teach us as well, as they remind us to like view the world differently than our own perceptions.
Absolutely.
Um, but no, I agree with you that like humans are just really fascinating. And isn't that the beauty of what we do? Like making things for people and connecting with other people. Like we get to learn not just from our own kids or ourselves or our partners, but all these other people we get to hear about the
Absolutely.
perceptions of.
It's incredible. Honestly, I love it. Um, we're approaching the end of the show, but there's one thing that I definitely wanted to touch base on,
Sure.
because I think it's definitely something I didn't know at the very beginning of this, of our conversation. But I also think it's very important. And so, as like a final thoughts to the show,
Sure.
um, I wanted to kind of hear a little more about the Twitch Women's Guild and what it's all about.
Oh, sure. So I'm actually part of two of the four Unity guilds for Twitch.
Okay.
So um, Twitch has started these Unity guilds, and there's sort of, for those of you who in the audience also that don't know, basically, the Unity guilds are like stream teams, but made by Twitch itself rather than by a partnered
Oh.
streamer, and they're owned and ran by Twitch staff. There's the members of them are selected by Twitch staff. You have to apply for them, but then they're they go through a process where they check kind of who you are, what you're about, if you're like how you're presenting yourself, how you're representing these communities, and then they take information from the streamer survey on Twitch. I'm not sure who's actually looked at it, but there's a survey in your Twitch dashboard where you can select like identity information and just sort of tell them a little bit about who you are demographically. And they'll go, okay, we have these women streamers or femme presenting streamers. We have these LGBTQIS like 2S plus streamers. We have these Black or Latin streamers that are all out here doing their best and like trying to uplift people and have like these concepts of unity that they really strive to represent in their own spaces. But marginalized communities don't have enough eyes on them, will uplift them. And so they made these unity guilds. There's a Black, Latin, Women's, and Pride guild so far. Um, the Pride Guild just launched at the beginning of the month. And so basically, it's a group of selected streamers that are all like minded individuals that want to not just share their own stories, but really uplift and empower others in their communities to share their stories and share their experiences and empower each other. Um, and then each of the guilds has two leaders that are chosen by Twitch from applicants that are streamers. So for the Twitch Women's Guild, we actually just changed guild leaders because they rotate out every year so that new perspectives can get in and new ideas can be brought up. And, as much as the old guild leaders were amazing, wonderful women, changes of perspective are important so that things can continue to grow. Um, so Ash said hi, and Meadow just took over the Twitch Women's Guild, and I'm so excited for them. But the guilds are really just spaces where marginalized groups can sort of support and empower each other and have access to more of a voice in the platform and access to more resources and opportunities that might, usually skip them. Especially since many of the most successful streamers on the platform are all cisgender, heterosexual, and white men. Um, making sure that people who don't fit those specifics also have a voice and also have opportunities is something that Twitch is working on, and I think that's really cool. So that's kind of what the guilds are about and what the members are sort of up to. We are supporting each other and workshopping opportunities together and making raid trains with each other. And we just did like a theater jam, and that many guild members were in, but also some friends of guild members. But it was ran by the guilds, and it was really cool. And they did a full play. They did the importance of being earnest on Twitch together as like a way to just sort of jam and build something together that's uniquely theirs. And then there's also other internet intersectional support that Twitch is putting together. So they're not the Unity guilds yet because there aren't enough creators really to form the guilds yet. But there are 5 other collections of streamers that are available year round and showcasing a variety of voices. So there's the Together for AAPI voices, Together for Black Brilliance, Together for Latin Luminaries, um, Together for Legendary Women, Together for Pride, and the Disabled Creators, Indigenous Creators, and Active Military Service and Veterans Creators groups as well at this point. So um,
Wow.
it's just a way, I don't know, it's just like we were talking about earlier, building each other up and making sure that we're all seen as people and, you know, that we get to share our stories. So
I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. It is, I I wasn't aware that that was that was a thing, and I'm happy now that I know it. That's super super awesome. Um, yeah, I don't even know how to, I don't have any other word. I think you spoke everything that was needed there. It was perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that.
thank you
Um,
for giving me a place to share that. I think it's a really cool thing that Twitch has started doing over the last like year and a half. And I think that I think it's important for people to remember it's not taking away opportunities from anyone else. It's just giving more opportunities to people who haven't had them yet.
of course.
Um, and it's a rising tide that's going to raise all ships. You know, it's equity is a model for equality. Um, and um, I think that it's a wonderful change we're seeing. So
Yeah,
thank
I
you for the
fully
platform.
agree. It's so wonderful. At the end of the show, I always love to keep the floor completely open for you to plug, shout out, talk about projects that you're working on, and just leaving like the floor completely open. The only thing that I ask is that at the very end of our recording today, is that at some point you send me the links so that I can just put everything in the description below. Um,
Sure.
I do not feel like an hour and a half was even remotely close to enough time to really get into who you are and who you are as a content creator. And I so much want to extend another invitation to have you back on the show, because there's so much that we could talk about, and I think you and I think a lot alike, and I this is truly, even if not even for a recording, I would love to just pick your brain about things. So please, at some point, I really hope that we can get you back on the show. But then other than that, I would love to hear about anything and everything, where we can find you, where viewers of the show can find you, and things like that.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say really quick, I would love to be back. Talking to you has been such a pleasure, and I hope that this is one of many conversations we have recorded or not. Um, so as far as places you can find me, I stream on Twitch usually 4 days a week. I My schedule will be changing for October and then go back to normal. Usually I stream more in October because it's my favorite, spooky season's my favorite. I love Halloween. I love all of the things. I'm getting married next month though, so I'm going to actually be around a little bit less. I'll still be
Congrats.
streaming 2 or 3 times a week, but you know how weddings can be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to guarantee that I'm going to be available every single day for content.
Don't.
But
Live your life.
but I do stream Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday on Twitch. I also stream on YouTube on Thursday evenings, all times Pacific. That's where I'm streaming Earthbound currently. I'm very new to YouTube, so please be kind. This is going to be like my 7th or 8th live stream on YouTube ever this coming week,
Nice.
so very new to that. Um, you can find me on TikTok and Threads and Instagram as a shy bunny instead of Fiery Ashes because Fiery Ashes was taken, unfortunately.
What?
So, um, but I'm out here mostly doing gaming content. We do indie game showcases at least every week or two. I like to support indie devs and publishers and play their games. So I work directly with a lot of them. And we do first impressions. We're doing Life is Strange and other very emotionally devastating games, for lack of a better way to put it.
I love it.
Yakuza is Fridays always, because I think that I'm going to be playing them for the next year, even playing them every single Friday.
Do it.
But I I appreciate you so much. And yeah, I think the main things to know are if you liked what I was saying before, uh, Twitch is the main place to find me. YouTube is a growing platform to find me. And if you are a tabletop nerd, if you are really into storytelling and tabletop games, I am a member of the cast of the Old Ways podcast. I am a
Nice.
avatar in a Mage of the Ascension game, so I get to haunt one of our lovely, lovely mages, for lack of a better way to put it. But I also would love to sort of hint at by the time you hear this episode, I might be more present in at least one other project of theirs coming very, very soon.
Ooh.
So please feel free to check them out. We play all sorts of tabletop games, mostly leaning towards the kind of spooky end of things. A lot of Mage, Call of Cthulhu, that type of stuff.
Nice.
So, if you are a fellow tabletop nerd, then that might be a place you'd like to hear too.
I
Um,
love it.
Josh, you're a delight. Thank you so
Aw,
much for this.
you're a delight. Thank you so much. This has truly been a treat. I love this so much. You are such a kind-hearted person, and I could not have thought of anyone else that I would rather have had this day's conversation with. This was fantastic, and I am so excited for this episode to come out. Um, Thank you so much for being here. You are wonderful. Keep up the great work. I can't wait to check out more of your future content. For those listening, please, go do yourself a favor, because if you haven't, you're missing out. Okay. Go check these links out. They're in the description below. I don't even know why you're still listening to this. Just jump down there and go check out the rest of the content. It's amazing. Come on. But if you haven't found me yet by this episode, I am mind blown. And if today was your first episode, you picked a great one. I gotta say. So all of our links now, I do the spiel all the time. It's all in one giant link tree now. I know. Okay, it took me this long. I got my life together. Okay, it's in there. Just click the link. Everything you want to find will be right there. And as always, please help me, just thank our amazingly wonderful, kind guest today. And so as we approach the end of our episode, as always, I tell all of you, please do yourselves a favor, go outside, look up at the sky, feel the sun on your face, hug a tree, high five a squirrel, and I will absolutely, most definitely catch you on the next one.